Morning glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. It's Hugh Hewitt from Studio North. Good morning. I'm pleased to welcome back former UN ambassador, former governor of South Carolina, and Nikki Haley. Ambassador Haley, good morning. Welcome back to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Good morning from Manchester, New Hampshire.
Oh, you're not too far away. I'm up north. Quite a storm going on right now.
Yes,
Ambassador Haley, I want to begin. I've complimented the former Vice President Pence because he has a son and son-in-law on active duty. I've complimented Ron DeSantis. He's a veteran. You are a veteran military spouse. I believe your husband is deployed as we speak, correct?
Yes, he is currently deployed.
Okay, so is he an officer?
Yes.
Well, I just talked with Mike Gallagher about this. Senator Tuberville has a hold on more than 300 general officers, colonels who want to promote to general, captains who want to promote to admiral, and then everyone 1-star to 2-star on up. We don't have a commandant of the Marine Corps. We do not have a chief of staff of the Army for the first time in 200 years. More than 300 vacancies. It's a mess. And I know that the Pentagon has violated the Hyde Amendment, and I know you're pro-life. But would you call Senator Tuberville and ask him to stop screwing up the military? Because we're on the brink of a conflict with China, and we cannot have this.
Well, look, this just goes to show how messed up our country is. I mean, you look at the fact that the Department of Defense shouldn't be doing this in the first place, but there's got to be other ways to go about doing this. In a time where our recruitment's 25% down and, 80% of those recruits typically come from military families, and military parents are telling their kids not to go into the military, it's because they don't feel like anybody's got the military's back. They look at the fact that 33,000 veterans are homeless. They look at the fact that they're, dangling these promotions out there and using them as fodder. I mean, they're looking at the fact that people don't see these, men and women who serve as heroes anymore. And that's sad and it's terrible. And, I appreciate what Tuberville's trying to do. I do. Like, it's totally wrong that the Department of Defense is doing this. But have we gotten so low that this is how we have to go about stopping it? I mean, at what point can we not go and have, congressional members go to the Department of Defense and say, look, you have to go through Congress if you're going to do this. You can't suddenly, decide you're going to do this. Don't make us have to do this. I just think it shouldn't get to this point. And, for my husband who's serving overseas and for all those military men and women, the idea that this is what they're looking back and seeing, and this is what they are dealing with on top of the stresses of keeping themselves safe and being away from their families, it's wrong.
Ambassador Haley, thank you for saying that. I talked to an officer last week who told me not about himself, but about a friend who is facing a 1-year deployment in tough circumstances. I don't know if he's going to Djibouti. I don't know where they're going. There are some tough places to serve a year. And it's not Navy because usually they do 6-month and 9-month deployments, but a year in a tough place, but they can't start. So the family's in limbo. You've been there, right? You know what that month is before deployment. Now that month is 6 months. Now it's a year, and they're just in limbo. It's horrible.
It's incredibly stressful for the family, but it's incredibly stressful for the service member because their life is on hold. And it's enough to try and get ready for something like that. But, for any military family, they can agree with me that once they have the assignment that they have to go, they just want to go and get it over with. They just want to go ahead and get it done. And, it goes to the heart of we don't treat our military men and women, servicemen and women well. We don't treat our veterans well. And, my parents always taught us you take care of those who take care of you. And I think it's shameful from the way that, we're making veterans have to wait 29 days to get a doctor's appointment, to the idea that, you're dealing with a Department of Defense that's not focused on making sure that our military has the equipment, ammunition up to date that they need. Instead, they want them taking gender pronoun classes. We've got a serious problem when you've got China threatening us, Russia threatening us, Iran threatening us, and we're going to sit there and play games like this. It's just wrong.
On a political level, I also think it's completely disastrous for anyone on the Republican side, the party of defense, to have a Republican senator doing this. But I'll come back to that. China ran 11 ships in concert with Russia down past the Aleutians last week. I said last night on Brett Baer's show, I want us to send 11 ships through the Taiwan Strait in response. I don't want to, they didn't come into our waters, but I think we're on the brink of a conflict with China, Ambassador Haley. What do you think?
I think that we should make sure we're not in a conflict with China, and I think that President Biden's doing everything he can to make sure that we walk into it. You don't run scared from China. You have to be strong. You have to make sure they know, what we're focused on. We know this all started with Afghanistan, but it didn't end with Afghanistan. We've continued to see Biden go and send Blinken over there and try and make nice. Send Yellen over there, try and make nice. Send John Kerry over there and try and make nice. And in all these things, why are you doing that when they literally are responsible for killing 75,000 people last year because they're sending fentanyl across the border? Why are you doing that when they basically sent a Chinese spy balloon over our airspace, and they're buying up land next to our military? They bought the largest pork producer in our country. All of these things that they continue to do, why are we doing that? We now have malware that is in our systems that is going to basically, we don't know where the code is, but we know it's there, that's going to disrupt our power grid, our communications, our water supply. That's what China's done. So quit playing nice with them. And I think that's the problem is, America has been too nice to these people that want to kill us. And that's just not the way you handle it. You handle it with strength. You let them know what you expect of them, and you respond and let them know there's a price to pay if they do anything to challenge, threaten us, or any of our allies.
Now, Ambassador Haley, like I said, 11 Russian and Chinese ships sailed close to the Aleutians, but not into our waters. It's the third straight year China has done this. Every time we send one ship, President Biden and Secretary Austin send one ship to the Taiwan Strait, the Chinese Communist Party goes nuts. I like the fact they sent 11 ships near us so that we can just flood the zone in the Taiwan Strait. Would you order that if you were the president in response to this?
Well, this is actually in response to the fact that we had exercises going on in the Taiwan Strait, that we had exercises going on in the, South China Sea. That's why China's doing this, is because they're upset. But understand, you look at a map and see how close they came to Alaska. And you combine that with the Chinese spy base that they're putting up in Cuba, which don't think that they won't send Chinese military there soon. You add that and look at how close they are to our soil. And if that doesn't send a chill up every American spine, I don't know what will. So, yes, if we need to go and put, ships there to show them what we're doing, but it's not so much that you do a tit for tat. It's fine. We can do that. But what I'd rather us do is have America strategize to get strong. The fact that China has the largest naval fleet in the world, they have 350 ships. They'll have 400 in 2 years. We won't even have 350 in 2 decades. Let's focus. The one thing that will scare China is to watch us strengthen our military, because they know that we have the best military in the world. If they start seeing us modernize our equipment, if they start seeing us focus on our Navy, our air, to make sure that we're doing artificial intelligence, cyber, space, all of those things, they will suddenly start to realize that we mean business. Right now, they're just not scared of us. And
now, Ambassador Haley, I don't presume to lecture Brett Baer and Martha McCollum on what they ought to ask. They're the equal of any debate moderators. But you got a debate coming up this month. How many of the questions ought to concern the former President Trump's trials in his various jurisdictions, and how much ought to look forward, in your opinion? I don't know what Brett and Martha are going to ask. They're very good at what they do. But what do you want them to pay? How much attention do you want them to pay to the former president's legal troubles?
Well, look, I have said, with this last indictment that came down, I'm tired of commenting on every Trump drama. And I think if they go and they want to focus on ratings, yes, they're going to throw and try and create more Trump drama. But I think we need to be focusing on how we're going to stop China. I think we need to be focusing on how we're going to close our border. I think we need to talk about how we're going to reverse Bidenomics and the fact that, people are still feeling inflation. And so, if they want to continue to talk about those things, to ask a question about him is one thing. To make the debate any more than that would be really just a waste of the American people's time. I think we've got too many issues going on in our country and in the world that, talking about more Trump drama is not going to get us anywhere. Talking about whether he is on or off the stage, that's totally fair game.
I will be right back with Ambassador Haley, who's agreed to talk to me off air for 4 or 5 more minutes, and I'll play that in the next segment. Don't go anywhere, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt, broadcasting from Studio North. Ambassador Haley is in Manchester today. If you go to NikkiHaley.com, you'll find out what time her event is. And, Madam Ambassador, what time is your event today?
My event is I will be doing a event in Hudson, New Hampshire at the Veterans of Foreign Wars Hudson Memorial Post.
All right, I'll be right back with Ambassador Haley. Don't go anywhere, America. I'm going to ask her about the change of venue of President Trump's trial right after this. Stay tuned to the Hugh Hewitt Show. I'm back now with Ambassador Nikki Haley, who will be in Hudson, New Hampshire today at the Veterans of Foreign War Post. At what time, Ambassador?
That is going to be, I knew you were going to ask me that. That's going to be at noon.
At noon. So go on over there and meet the ambassador. I went down to one of her events in New Hampshire. It's great. I do want to ask you about not the former president, but about Jack Smith and the justice system. I think it's ridiculous to try the former president on anything, much less these absurd charges in the District of Columbia. And I have a Washington Post column coming out about them. Do you think a transfer of trial to a 50-50 district in the United States is necessary for at least the semblance of justice in this case, Madam Ambassador?
I do. I mean, look, a Republican can't get a fair trial in D.C., and I've long said that, January 6th was a terrible day, but Trump did not attack the Capitol. It's not a crime for him to say that he thinks the election was stolen. I mean, I just don't think you should prosecute him for that. But I don't think anybody feels like you can get, a fair case for a Republican in D.C. or New York. So, yeah, I think that changing venues would be totally warranted. Yeah,
92% of the district voted for Joe Biden, 5% voted for Donald Trump. More importantly, he's got 100% name recognition and probably 100% opinions about him. In fact, when you go to the town halls, I bet you run into very anti-Trump people and very pro-Trump people. Is that the case?
It's interesting. Nobody really asked me about Trump. I mean, when we have town halls, nobody asked me one way or the other about him. What they talk about is the fact that, we're in debt, the fact that groceries are still high, the gas is still high. They worry about transparency in the classroom. They worry about crime. They worry about the fentanyl. They worry about the border. They really don't ask me about him.
Well, let me finish by telling you about the debate. I don't know what the rules are. Brett and Martha are the best. They're the equal of anyone in the business, so they'll have good questions. How much time do you want to spend talking to each other or responding to the moderators, Nikki Haley?
Well, I mean, look, I look forward to debates. I love debates. I think it's a great opportunity for Americans to see what all of their options are. And, as long as we're talking about real issues, as long as we're talking about the future of our country and not the past of our country, I think that it'll be a good thing. And so, look, I think Brett and Martha are fantastic as well. I mean, they're complete professionals and at the top of their game. And I think that we've got, a good slate of candidates. So it'll be an interesting debate for sure. And I look forward to it.
Ambassador Haley, always a pleasure. Keep coming back. Thank you for joining me this morning. I hope you find time to call Tommy Tuberville today. I appreciate your joining me.
Thanks so much. Go to NikkiHaley.com.
NikkiHaley.com if you want to find out more about her events in New Hampshire. Thank you, Madam Ambassador.
Thank you.